Welcome to the Other Side Pod. I'm Nadine. We're not experts. We're just humans having a human experience we think you can learn from, or relate to, or laugh at, or cry over. So hit download, dive in, and hear how folks found themselves on the other side. We are recording, and this is a podcast I have been wanting to do since I thought about podcasting years ago, because I started going to Dr. Gerston, I think 7 years ago. And from the very first moment, I was like, you're a magician. But before we get into that, I want to know, what's your favorite way to move your body?
Whoa, my favorite way? My favorite way is really not the one I do the most often, but dance. I love dancing.
This is why I love asking a question that you don't expect, because I get an answer I could not even begin to expect. Like, what kind of dancing?
Just dancing, just to music, just whatever, just moving and dancing and just feeling the music and just going. And that would be my favorite, most fulfilling way to move my body. I mean, I lift weights and I stretch and I've done yoga and all these things, but that would probably be my favorite, the one that brings the biggest smile to my face, nourishes my soul the most.
I want to go to a wedding where you're there, because I feel like we won't leave the dance floor. You know what? I also love dancing, and I'm like, in my 40s, I'm like, where do you go dance? And I get it. You know what? What is it? The Elmdale? They have that the last Wednesday of every month. They have a DJ, and it's fun. But I still feel a bit. Well, let's be honest. I also like to go to bed at 9 p.m. But I still feel a bit like, oh, I'm 48 now. But a wedding, I'm like, yeah, baby, this is my chance.
Yeah, nice.
Uh, I love it. All right, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Jared Gerston. I'm a chiropractor here in Ottawa. And that's in a nutshell me. I
And you
own a
own,
practice.
yeah.
Yeah, I own a practice called Restore Health and Wellness, located in Hinchinburg. So we're a multidisciplinary practice with chiropractors, massage therapists, osteopath, physiotherapists, and a naturopath and psychotherapist on site as well.
When did you open?
We opened in 2012 at a different location, just in Wellington West.
Oh, and then when did you move to Bayswater?
2021.
Oh, got you. Okay, so that would be when I found you, maybe when you first moved, because I wasn't at the other location,
Yeah, and I think it was pretty early on when we first met. Yeah.
right? You were recommended by a friend of mine who literally said, I don't know what he does, but go. Because I mean, I've been there so many times now, because, well, I love moving my body in different ways. And there's always something that comes up
Mhm.
when you're in your 40s and you're active. But the first time, I think it was, my Achilles heels were killing me. And I had just started a business movement practice. And I'm like, I just launched this business and I can't do it because my Achilles are, they felt like, they almost felt like they were cement. They felt they were so hard and they weren't flexible at all. And I thought they were going to snap in half. And that's what led me to go see you. And then I don't know what it is you do. And I'm going to ask you so many questions about it, but not like you fixed me, but I just, what do you do? What's the name of it? Tell me.
Okay. So I primarily use a technique called PDTR, proprioceptive deep tendon reflexes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it.
And so it's essentially a technique that we're working on compensation patterns, but it's a technique that looks at sensitivities in the body, sensitivities coming from different tissues, basically easily stimulated receptors inside tissues that are causing dysfunction in the body in some way, movement dysfunction in some way. So the premise behind it is that the brain is keeping track of all of this information coming in from the body, right? It's keeping track of the position of your joint, it's keeping track of muscle tone, it's keeping track of the pH of your blood, like everything is being tracked by your brain. But we're not aware of most of it. Now, oftentimes after an injury or a surgery or maybe repetitive strain, whatever it might be, there's a tissue injury. Those tissues will heal, but there are receptors inside those tissues that can remain very sensitive and easily stimulated. And they're sending off all these signals to the brain, which are very disproportionate to what they should be sending off. They're these aberrant signals. It's almost like it's signaling to the brain that this area is still injured. So the brain pays attention to all of that information, and then it makes decisions on how to move the body, what muscles to turn on, what muscles to turn off, what muscles to make more active or less active. But if it's getting the information, it's going to give faulty information as well. So what we're doing is we're affecting the information going up to the brain, and we're clearing out that information so the brain has better information. And then it naturally will give better information going out, and it will help to sort out these compensation patterns that are occurring in people's bodies.
I just want to tell people who are listening that if you go, you have no idea. Everything you just said, I have no idea that that's going on because it sounds complicated, but you make it feel so simple because as a patient, FYI, because you've never got to be in my shoes. As a patient, I go in and I'm number one, I'm deeply, endlessly curious. So I know I interrupt what you're doing and ask you a million questions while you're doing it. And I try really hard not to do that. But I'm like, I'm laying there and you've explained to me it's almost like remapping my brain, rerouting an old route that it's been compensating for because of an injury. Um, but it's almost like I'm lying there. It's such a peaceful experience because I can see your brain working hard to figure out what my body is doing. But it's like this gentle touch on my wrist, and then like, can you lift your leg up to here? It's just it's so therapeutic feeling because it's like a calm, peaceful experience while your brain is probably the opposite. You're like you're constantly processing, trying to pick it up because I can see you trying different things. And then when you find, I can see like this switch in your head when you find the compensation that my body and brain are doing. It's so cool. And then I guess how do you remap it? Like how does that work?
So this technique was developed by a doctor named Dr. Jose Palomar. He's an orthopedic surgeon and had an interest in neurology. And he somehow figured out that when you can identify the sensitive receptors in the body, tapping a reflex, like the same type of reflex that your doctor would tap with a little hammer when you go to see them, tapping that reflex somehow it interrupts the communication between those receptors and the brain and somehow resets the sensitivity of those receptors. And so they just go back down to normal. And then the brain all of a sudden just gets this normal information, and it's able to give that normal output again. Now, I don't know how I figured this stuff out. He worked for decades on this.
How did you find him? How did you even know that that technique existed in the world?
So I knew of the technique that I knew that PDTR was out there through some colleagues of mine. So prior to being involved with PDTR, I was using a technique called NKT, which stands for neurokinetic therapy, which is another fantastic technique which works with compensation patterns in the body. And used it for a few years exclusively in my practice, along with soft tissue therapy and some adjustments and rehab and all that kind of stuff. And it was a great technique. We worked lots of patients got much better, much faster, working in all these compensation patterns. But I had a patient who was referred to me from a chiropractor in Toronto who I knew through the NKT world. And this person had a high hamstring strain that for like 2 years and nobody could figure it out. And I thought, easy peasy, couple of visits. The hamstrings are overworking, their glutes are not firing. This will be no problem. I saw them like 10 or 12 times and I made no difference whatsoever. I did everything I knew how to do. I was working on the hamstring, I was working on the foot and ankle, we were doing gait mechanics, I was doing core work with them, like everything I knew how to do, and it was no change at all. So finally, I suggested that we video in the chiropractor who referred them. They're a very smart, good practitioner. Just get a second set of eyes and maybe a different direction to go. So we did that. Chiropractor takes a look. Okay, do this, do that. Okay, lie down on the table. And they start instructing me, swipe here, tap here, poke here. And I don't know, I know I'm doing PDTR, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to interpret it all. Anyways, the patient gets off the table. How are you feeling? fine, but it only hurts when I run. Okay, I'll see you next week for your follow-up. They come back in a week later. How's it going? 80% better. I said, at that point, I said, okay, there's something to this. So then I did what I knew, what I had in my bag of tricks at that time, and it was another 1 or 2 visits, and it seemed to the hamstring strain seemed to resolve pretty well. So there was a course that was starting in Chicago soon after. That was in 2017, and so I went up to Chicago and started doing that course. And it's an involved program. It's 3 levels, and each level is three or four 4-day weekends. Like it was pretty involved, and I finished that in 2018.
Um, so when you go into this program, I'm very curious, do you have to, I don't know, not have an injury to kind of get the most from it, but I imagine when you're the patient, it like seeps in a different way. But I also have never gone to school for to be a chiropractor, so I don't really get it. But like, do you somehow try to mimic being a patient? You know, when you like, I mean, I also didn't go to massage therapy school, but like, you know, you practice on each other, but like, how do you practice on each other? Or yeah, how do you like fully get it? I don't know. Like, how does that
Yeah,
work?
yeah. Are you talking about like chiropractic school or the PDTR
The
training?
PDTR, but then I'm going to go back to chiropractic school too, because
Okay,
I have
sure.
many
Uh,
questions.
so it's interesting because we are all walking around with tons of compensation in our body. We just,
Mhm.
for a lot of us, it's just not even relevant, right? But I can find something on anyone, even if they have no pain, even if they move well. There's always something going on. So we work on each other in the PDTR course, and yeah, sometimes there wasn't that particular dysfunction or issue going on with that person, but for the most part, it wasn't a huge issue. I'll give you an example actually. So there's a
Yeah.
section of PDTR where we work on something called primitive reflexes. These reflexes that we're all born with that are overlaid by more mature reflexes as we develop when we're infants. And I thought this was just going to be a weird and wonderful thing. And out of the 17 that we studied, I had 11 of them. So yeah,
That's so
and I
cool.
yeah. So we have a ton of stuff going on with our bodies all the time. Yeah.
Can I have an example of a primitive reflex, or is it hard to explain? You kind of have to like do it physically.
So a primitive reflex. So for example, um, if a so these are all reflexes that we have when we're born, and they help us
Yeah.
to develop. They help us to move, right? They help us to go into a crawling position or to lift our heads up or to turn our heads in different directions. And as we start to age, those reflexes they go away. So, I'll give you an example. If the like if a baby if they're on their back and they turn their head from side to side, they'll get an arm movement that happens with that. Okay, but we as adults, we don't have that same reflex. It's been overlaid by a more mature reflex. Now, sometimes what will happen, either due to missing a particular developmental stage, sometimes due to head injury, trauma, stress, sometimes we can get this little like an interference. These reflexes can come back in our bodies. They can show up again, and they can cause various issues. Some of them might be musculoskeletal, so relate to tight muscles or pain. Some of them can be a little bit more behavioral or even emotional in some ways, a higher anxiety, things like that. And so there's a whole section in PDTR where we work on those, and that's something that I've been doing quite a bit in my practice recently.
So remember when I was there, I think it was during this winter, and I don't even remember now because you fixed it, but I think it was my neck, and I was like, oh, my neck. And I was attributing it to pickleball because that's when I would most notice it. Like when I was crouched in like a squat stance, like kind of focus on the game. And after playing for 2 hours, I thought it was the way I was crouched down and holding my neck to see where the ball was going that was causing my neck to pain. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna keep playing and have this. And then I go see you, and you were doing something, and you said, because we've gotten to know each other now, and you're like, I know you're willing to go there with me. Can you think about like, are you willing to go to like stress how this is affecting your neck? Like, will you think of something that's causing you? And you took me through this in like a more elegant way than this, but I'm like trying to sum this up for people listening. But you were basically like, can we go there and like attribute this to something else, not pickleball, not something physically you're doing? And I was like, let's do it. And you tapped into something that was causing me a lot of stress that I kind of had pushed down. And you were like, there it is. and I swear to you, I have not had any neck pain since.
Amazing.
So, like,
That's
is that a
awesome.
part of that primitive response?
So that's not necessarily the primitive reflexes, but that's when we're getting into the emotional component for pain, muscle dysfunction, etc. We all, I think, experience this on some level when we're stressed out, and so many times we put our stress up, in our shoulders. We sometimes get headaches or our jaws get tight, and then when you pass that stressful point in your life, you get to the vacation or you pass the deadline. Sometimes you just feel that that muscle tension just melt away. And so that can happen for various reasons. That can be like an acute stressor, like something like I said, like a job, a deadline, something like that, or something, major, like a life event, the passing of a loved one, a trauma. So these things can be held in the body like that, where just like when we compensate around a physical injury, we can also compensate around an emotional injury. And those compensations are there to help support the emotional injury. But just like a physical compensation, after the tissues heal, and those receptors remain sensitive, we're stuck in an old pattern, right? It's almost like we think that we're still injured even though we're not really. So, given time or therapy or whatever it is, we start to heal from those emotional injuries, but sometimes we just get stuck in these old compensation patterns, and it's almost like we still feel like we're injured, emotionally injured, and so we hold on to these compensation patterns. So again, there's some things that we can do, and truthfully, in my practice, so there is a whole protocol in PDTR that works with these emotional issues, but I don't really follow that. There's some other work that I do, as you know, it's a little bit different, but it seems to work very, very well for this, and it just helps to kind of bring the subconscious mind and the conscious mind in agreement with each other. It kind of shows that subconscious mind, like, no, we're okay, right? Consciously, we're fine. We process that. And the subconscious can then let go of those compensations. It can then let go of that tension and that dysfunction that's happening in the body. And I might want to add just one thing as well, because I don't know if I talked about it specifically, but a lot of the ways that we assess this is through very gentle muscle testing. So seeing, can you hold your head in this position? Can you hold your head in this position? Can you hold your arm in this position? And just seeing how those muscles are behaving, and then seeing what affects those muscles. Does touching a ligament turn off those muscles? Does thinking about something stressful or traumatic turn off those muscles, or really rev them up so that they're almost unable to relax, right? So we're using these muscle tests to kind of assess how the body is responding to these different stimuli.
Just think it's so beautiful that you have done the work to bring out this part of human nature, like the fact that we take something like traumatic or a major life event, a shock point, and we do a lot of work in therapy or with coaching or whatever to move through it. We get help from our family, hopefully our support systems, and then we think it's done. And then we're active and lifting and playing this and that, and go to you, a chiropractor, thinking like, okay, I'm going to get a physical adjustment or something. And then the fact that you bring your practice back to the emotional just makes my heart grow 3 times in size, because not there's a lot of people that don't do that. And you give me a space to like actually figure out what's bothering me, because I'll tell you, in that moment I really thought it was pickleball, and I'm also lifting a lot, so I'm like, maybe it's the squat bar, maybe it's this, and I'm telling you all the things that I'm doing. And I know there's obviously a method to how you figure out, like, I think there's something else here with Nadine. And then you asked permission to go there. And I'm like, sure. Here's what rocked my world that day. You were like, can you think of a stressful event? And I can't remember what you were doing. Maybe you had a hand on my wrist or on my neck. I can't remember. And I thought of something so obvious to me, because I was working on a proposal for this big project that I had offered to, or yeah, a big proposal. And so I was like stressed about it because I wanted to do it really well and I wanted to get this project. And you did something and you're like, that's not it. Do you have anything else? And I was like, oh, and I'm like, okay. And I don't even know what I thought of. But I was like, okay, yeah, this is also stressful. I'll think of this thing. And you're like, nope. And I'm like, oh God. And then you made me think of something that, like, it's from a few years ago, and it was like, kind of like, I guess I didn't think it sat so at the surface, but I guess it did. And then I thought of it. You're like, there we are. And I remember being so mad at myself because I was like, Nadine, you've done so much work to like process that major life event and that shock point in your world, and yet it was still kind of like, it was almost like ready to, I guess, bubble out of me, but I was holding it maybe because I felt like I left. It's not like you like fix my life. But I left and I was like, oh, it made me connect to something that I was like, oh, I'm allowing that to bubble at the surface, I guess. And then that awareness helps me to kind of feel it and then let it go.
Mm,
But the fact that mentally I can think about that and know I'm doing the work, but physically the pain in my neck released, if it wasn't, if it didn't happen to me, I'd be like, what? How does that happen? So I don't even know what my question is. I just want to thank you for doing what you do. But here's my question. Picture me in that day. I don't know if you remember, but like picture me that day and I'm coming to you with neck pain. And I do remember you getting me to do different movements and maneuvers to see how do you figure out that it's not muscular or it is muscular, but it's coming from an emotional compensation, not a, mm, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but muscular compensation or skeletal or how do you figure that out? How did you know?
mm. There's a process in the PDTR process. There's a way of establishing a hierarchy, and again, this all comes back to how Dr. Palomar figured out these different stimuli and all this stuff about the nervous system. But he figured out that there's a very predictable way that the nervous system responds to stimuli. And so when we stimulate something in a particular way, I'm just looking for a particular response in your body, and it helps to determine that that is the top hierarchy, that is the main compensation, because you're going to have one top compensation, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of other little compensations attached to it that kind of come down this chain. And you can work on any of those. And sometimes, you can work at the bottom and get a really, really good result, or in the middle and get a really, really good result. But if you go to the top and you take away that top compensation, none of the other ones are necessary. They just all go away by themselves. So just using that process, using the PDTR process, it just showed up that that was the top compensation. That was the priority. So I think in your case also, as you're relating all this to me, it's interesting. I wonder, you said you were lifting heavy, you were playing pickleball, doing all these things. I wonder if maybe those activities put a little more strain through that area, through the neck, right? And allowed this old thing to bubble up, which maybe wasn't really at the surface. And these things are all layered on top of each other, right? They're all connected in some way, some amazingly complicated and incredible way. They are all connected to each other and they layer up on top of each other. So I wonder how that all kind of mapped out. Like I wonder if that's what it was that kind of brought that to the surface and your body was like, somebody's got to deal with this thing. It's
Right.
here.
And then I
Yeah.
have you. Then I have you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, going back to like little kid Jared, what in the world led you into chiropractic? Like, what were you like as a little kid? Were you always into movement in the body and curious and
Yeah, that's so funny. I wonder, how this chain of events all laid out. Life is funny. As a little kid, I was very active for sure. I loved playing, especially climbing, lots of trees, playgrounds. I think generally, happy kid. Yeah, very curious, very into science. When I was younger, I really wanted to be an archaeologist or an anthropologist, and I was just so into, yeah, studying ancient civilizations, and I thought it'd be really cool to be on digs and do all these things. Um, I went to university for psychology. I was thinking I was going to eventually, actually, I was taking minors in anthropology, archaeology, and I was trying to figure out which direction I was going to go. And I didn't think there were that many options in anthropology and archaeology. So, yeah, academia or kind of nothing else. And so I was leaning towards psychology, and I started studying psychology. But I think I always also just interested in the human condition, what makes us human, what drives our behavior. Um, and um, so so I started studying psychology, and I ended up not going down that route, obviously. I ended up going to Asia for quite a while. I lived in and traveled in Asia for about 9 years, from the time I was 22 to 31. And
what? Whole other
yeah,
podcast coming back to that. Okay.
okay. So
Okay.
it's all a part of how I got to chiropractic for sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the time, it was just really I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It wasn't psychology. I wanted to leave that, but I had a university degree, and I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. So
What's the
initially,
degree in?
in psychology,
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and then so I left Canada, and I first I traveled. I went to India. Thought it was going to be a 3 month trip, maybe 6 month trip. I was gone for 15 months. I was a full year in India and 3 months in Nepal. And I studied yoga pretty intensively while I was there, and I was exposed to, Ayurveda and Ayurvedic massage, and then I ended up coming back home for a little bit, worked for a little while, and then went back overseas to Taiwan, where I lived for 5 years. I was there for a year, then left again, traveled around, went back, worked for another 4 years in Taiwan. And while I was there, I was studying Tai Chi pretty seriously. And you go to the Chinese doctor when you're sick sometimes, and acupuncture or Qi healing and Tui Na, which is a Chinese form of manual therapy. And eventually, I knew I wanted to be somewhere in this world. I wanted to be in health. I wanted to be in wellness. I like working with my hands. I like working with people. So I thought I was going to go into massage therapy. And when I left Taiwan, I went to Thailand, and I thought I'll take some Thai massage courses while I'm there. They're relatively inexpensive. They're accessible, and I can just see if I like working with people on this level. And honestly, it was one of the happiest times of my life. It was just such an incredible time learning and practicing. And uh, so I came back to Canada thinking I was going to get into massage therapy. Maybe Thai massage would be my thing. And I was talking to a friend of mine and said, "Have you thought about chiropractic? It's a pretty good profession." And so I looked into it. And I'd been to a chiropractor before, and I thought, I'll just apply. The school's in Toronto, and that's where I want to be. I've been gone for 9 years, and I want to be with my family and my friends. So I'll just apply and see what happens. So I did, and I got called in for an interview, and it's they take there are about 600 applicants. They take less than 200 people, so it was pretty hard to get in. The interview was very, very stressful. I thought I bombed it, and so I thought, no problem, let's stick with my original plan and stick with massage therapy. And then I got an acceptance letter, so I had to sit with that for a little while and really consider it because it was a much bigger commitment than massage school. Right? It's a 4-year program, it's full time, very expensive, and so I had a lot of encouragement from my family, a lot of support from them as well. And so I just went for it, and that's how I kind of fell into chiropractic. It wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be a chiropractor specifically. It was just I wanted to work with people in this way and in this field.
Hey, I'm so glad I asked you this question because now it makes sense why you are a chiropractor with this type of practice. I'm like, oh, I'm connecting all the dots because you were always interested in something a little deeper than
Mm.
maybe Western medicine. Yeah, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, and just even a little bit deeper, a little bit more subtle, right? Like, talking going back to sort of the emotional component, working with that real humanness, right? Like, what is the mind? What is emotion? What makes us, who we are, and what is that stuff, right? It is very, very subtle, and it's very, yeah, beautiful. And so to work in that way, I think it's has always drawn me, right? This world of
Sames.
energy and heart and feeling, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm endlessly curious and fascinated by humans and our habits and our nature. And I also, funny enough, in my undergrad, was really into anthropology. I was like, this
Oh
is
yeah.
so cool. And psychology. So that's so funny
Huh.
because I also thought I'd go into psychology and long twisted story. I didn't, but that's what I was really fascinated as in at the same age as you. So you
That's
grew
so
up in
cool.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. How did you end up in Ottawa?
Oh, different reasons. It was I wanted to live away from the big city, wanted a little bit better quality of life, better access to the outdoors, didn't want to be in traffic all the time. So there was all of that. I have friends out here, so I've been out to Ottawa a few times. It's not too far from Toronto. There's like a lot of logistics. At the time as well, when I graduated in 2011, not, I don't know, I didn't find the greatest job prospects in Toronto, but it seemed like there were some really good opportunities in Ottawa. And so, yeah, so I came out here. I interviewed at a clinic that was out in Bell's Corners, and started working for a couple of guys out there. And they're very good chiropractors. They're still in practice now, but the clinic's not there anymore. And it was a very good experience, but it was very, very hard to build a practice there. And I had always intended on opening up my own place. And so I started putting all those pieces together. And it just came to a point where, yeah, I wasn't really making any money working for those guys. And so I thought I just won't make any money working for myself and just focused on the store. So yeah, that's kind of how I came out to Ottawa and wanted to establish this practice. It was just a better opportunity out here at the time.
So you always knew you were going to open your own clinic, like even when you were in school?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Mm,
What's the draw for you?
I don't really know actually.
Mm.
I just didn't see myself really like working for someone else necessarily. Like I just wanted to be a little bit more maybe independent and yeah, not an employee and just yeah have some independence and freedom to kind of do what I want and have things the way that I want them done.
How's it
Yeah.
going? How's entrepreneurship from a
How's
fellow entrepreneur?
entrepreneurship? Yeah. So it's funny, when I first started out, I really was excited about the entrepreneurial aspect of it and running a business. And I was like really excited to like
Yeah.
do marketing and networking and like do all this stuff. But yeah, I learned a lot about myself that actually I don't love that part so much. I really like seeing patients and I really like patient care and I like developing my skills and being introduced to new techniques and that whole exploration I think is much more interesting to me and I just love that aspect of it. The rest of it, the running the business and yeah, not no, I gotta be honest, not where my heart is.
Not your favorite. So how do you do it? Like, do you have help? Do you just like kind of buckle down and do the stuff, but then find your joy in your patient care? Yeah. How do you do it if someone else is
Yeah,
thinking about this?
yeah, I think that's how it's been. I think it was, and at the beginning, I had a little bit more time in my life, right? I didn't have a family, like I've got two kids now. I didn't have kids at the time, and so I was able to spend a little bit more time developing the practice and working on the website and networking and all these sorts of things. And over time, I think I've got general systems in place where the day to day is pretty much run on its own, which is fantastic. I do have people who help me out. There's one of my associates has always been really great at helping to contribute some effort towards the practice, helping with some training of our staff, and so I do get help for sure. Um, yeah, that's how I've done it up to
Right.
this point.
And like you were able to put systems in place so that it's like a well-oiled machine by the time you want to be pulled, you're like, okay, here's what actually my favorite part of my career. And now I have kids, so I also want to, have more of a balance. I'm assuming that's kind of what
Mhm.
happens when you have kids. Yeah. So just kind of lucky that you built it when you had a bit more free time and you were a bit more like energetic for the entrepreneurial experience. And then, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
totally.
what's so funny is before I opened my business, back in 2014, I was talking to my husband. I'm like, I'm so excited to like have a team and manage. And he was like, oh, I do not like managing people. And I was like, oh, I love people. I can't wait to do this. And then after I did it, I was like, oh my God, that's exhausting. But like you go into it, and I think it's such a sweet thing to go into it with like eyes wide shut, like with this like curious, um, energetic, like generosity to all things. And maybe you love managing people, but like you really don't like the admin stuff or whatever. But like just embrace it all and then like figure it out as you go along. And then hopefully you get to like dive into what the parts that you really like and either have support and help for the parts that you don't really love or really great systems in place. But I get it. I also was the same way. I'm like, why doesn't everybody want to do this? And then after a couple of years, I'm like, oh, this is why nobody else wants to do this. I always thought people were lying. Like I did my MBA and I remember there was like, I don't think there's anybody else in my entire class that wanted to be an entrepreneur. And it was my whole goal of doing my MBA because I just wanted to have I did a general MBA because I wanted to have a bit of information in like marketing, accounting, finance, HR. Like I wanted a piece of all of it. Which is also now that I know my Enneagram 7, it really makes sense because I'm like, ooh, I didn't want to be like in one thing. I wanted a little piece of all of it. But I did it with the knowing that one day I would have a business. I just knew it. And I thought everybody else in there that was like, I want to go in marketing and work for this company. I want to do finance for this company. I'm like, you're all kidding yourselves. Who wants to work for anybody else? And then, yeah, I'm really close to a lot of people I did my MBA with. Like some of my best friends I met in that program because I was really young when I did it. I was like 23. Um, Now I'm like, or even like 2 years into having my first business, I was like, oh my God, you guys. They're like, yeah, we never understood why you wanted to do this. But I'm still choosing it. Like I literally, I don't know, maybe a month ago said to David, I'm like, okay, this is it. Don't let me open another business. Like coaching, team development, podcasting, right? Like I like this, but please don't let me do this again. It's so hard and I almost forget it. It's like he's like, I can't stop you. I who knows where you're gonna go.
It is so hard, and it is so much work, and I can appreciate now that I don't think I could have ever appreciated before, that there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, right? Like
Yeah.
as a client or a customer or whatever it is, you go to a place, and you know, go to a nice shop, let's say, and you go and you buy some things, or you go to, like, you go to, work out or whatever it is, and you get this experience, but you don't really appreciate how much has to go on behind the scene in order to make that happen.
My God. Right?
Yeah.
Like someone
Yeah.
once asked me, I was teaching a class and I came out and he was so sweet. Like he wasn't being facetious, but he was like, "So what else do you do?" And my jaw, literally, I was like, "What else do?" And I was like, "You know what? That's a compliment. This place looks so well run
Yeah,
that you were like,
totally.
"Hey, Nadine, what do you do on your with most of your day?" And in my head, I'm like, "I can't get away from this machine. Like this is
Yeah,
eating me alive. What else do you do?"
yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, it's
Oh,
so true.
yeah.
That is a compliment. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, so when you're in
So,
school, yeah, yeah.
so, no, go ahead. Keep going, actually.
No,
Yeah.
you go. Tell me. I'm so
So there was
curious.
something, just because I think it segues into what we were just talking about, or from
Yeah.
what we were just talking about. You were asking about, the balance and everything like that. So I actually, and maybe just I hinted at this just before we started the podcast, but I'm actually going to step down as the owner of Restore Health and Wellness. There are three
Hey.
of my associates are coming together, and they're forming a partnership, and they're going to take over the ownership of it so that I can step down and then focus on these other areas of my life, like patient care, like my own personal development, which I think comes into patient care a lot, as well as exploring different techniques and things like that. So
I'm
I
so
am actually
happy for
stepping down, and
you.
that. Thank you. Yeah, me too. I'm excited to start this part of my journey and be able to dedicate a little bit more of my energy and focus to that, and a little bit less on the business itself. So I'll still be there, by the way. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be
Oh,
still be.
I'll chase you down. I'll
I,
train to Toronto. Like I'm gonna find you. I'll be like, where is he in Taiwan? I'm gonna find him. Wait, I
yeah,
want to have a moment for this because it is really hard to step away from something that you worked really hard to build. And
yeah,
your business is not you, but it is certainly an extension of you. So for you to be able to, number one, feel that need to not do that, like to change kind of like or course correct where you've been going, it's so, how did you know? Tell me more. I think this is so great for people listening that are like maybe afraid, in entrepreneur or not, it's really hard to kind of change your path in a way, even though you're still staying in as you're still a chiropractor and you're actually getting to dig more into what you want to do. It's really difficult to make that decision.
yeah. It was, and I think it was a long time coming. Like, this is something that's been on my mind for like many years, actually.
Ah,
But yeah, totally. Yeah, it is very hard to be an entrepreneur, and I did realize at some point, relatively, not that early on, but relatively early on, right, that my this is not where my heart is the business aspect, the entrepreneurship. And but I kept working at it, and kept trying, and I, had a vision, and I wanted to try to see that through, and all these things. But it did just get to a certain point where I just had to make this decision that this is not where my heart is, and this is not what I want to spend my energy on. And so, um, it was really within the past year or two that I had decided that I wasn't going to go on and renew the lease in our current location. And so I did actually, I was looking for another buyer for the clinic. I wanted to try to find somebody who was the right fit, and that was very important to me. Like you said, it's not you, but it is an extension of you, right? And I didn't really want to try to sell the business to, like, a big chain who was going to turn it into, a mill or, something like that. So it was important to me to have it go to somebody who was going to kind of carry it on in that way. And I did, approach the associates or one or two associates at different times to kind of get feelers out there to see if anybody was interested. And truthfully, I was more prepared to even just close the doors and walk away from it and just leave it as it is than to have it become something unrecognizable or something that wasn't in line with the efforts that were put in over the years. And so I'm so thankful that these three have come together. And I think that overall the feeling of the place, the philosophy, the individualized patient care, the time we take with people, right? We're not a high volume clinic. We really try to take our time with people, and all of that I think is going to be preserved. And I'm so happy that that is going to continue in that way. Yeah.
You're a special human. I can so relate to wanting to either have the business continue on without you, but still holding the same like ethos and values of how it was built, because it's still going to treat the same clients. And it's not your legacy, but it's like a little part of you, right? That's going to hopefully live on in the world. Um, when it came for me to decide to sell my last studio, which was Movement, at the time it was called Movement, now it's called Collective Movement. I did reach out to a few people as well, and I'm like, I think I'll just close it, because I didn't want it to become something that I wouldn't have been proud to look at when it's still open, like
Yeah.
that was the one that I was like, this one really feels like me. This one feels like it came from my like molecular like build. And then same as you, I found, well, Mandy, who owns it now, was she was the last teacher I hired actually, and there was just something different about her, and I just randomly called her one day and I'm like, do you want a business? Because I was like, I'm drowning, like I need to step away, I'm very burnt out, I need to take some time off and heal. And anyway, I was like, on the flip side, and I said to her, like, this isn't what's the word I'm looking for, it's not I don't mean it as a threat, but I was like, I will close it, because I don't want it to become something that it's like hard to look at. Anyway, so I get what you're saying, and also to come to the decision to take care of yourself before your business. I think people don't understand that's a really hard place to get, because I think entrepreneurs, especially if we've opened something that we're so deeply ingrained with, or like it's an extension of us, it's really hard to decide to take care of yourself first, because I feel like it
Yeah.
gets the best of you for a very long time. And then all of a sudden you're like, I remember saying to the team when I bought it, and I was running it by myself, I was like, I'm gonna right this ship, because it had been through a very chaotic storm, and I was like, I'm gonna right the ship. And then like 3 months later, I had this vision that there's this ship, and it's righted, and it's still floating, but I felt like I was behind it holding on to one of those, like, don't, what do you call them, the life preservers, and
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
take, yeah, I was like getting all the waves, like the back waves from the ship, and I was like, oh, I'm drowning.
Oh.
Why am I saving this thing? I'm drowning. And that's when I was like, okay, I remember I called my mom and I was like, I gotta close this thing, like, and she knew how much I loved it, and she was like, yeah, it was sweet. Anyway, so all
Yeah.
that to say, I get it.
Yeah.
When's
And
the
that's
transition happening? Sorry to cut you off.
it should be happening July. Yeah, like so we're
Oh,
talking like weeks away. Honestly. So
congrats. Oh,
yeah, thank you. Yeah,
okay,
and it's
so
interesting. So
yeah.
I just wanted to add something. That whole sense of priorities, that's what really changed for me, right? At the very beginning, it was a lot of that, the priority is the business. Everything was the business, the business, the business, at the expense of, my own personal health, right? Not sleeping, not eating properly, like skipping workouts and drinking too much alcohol, like whatever, just to cope with what's going on. And then over time, right, as my priorities started to shift, just to start taking care of my kids. Okay, well, they're very important, right? Family life, having that work-life balance, starting to take care of myself better and seeing how important that is, just not only for myself, but also, to be able to, I think, bring that into practice as well. All of those priorities started to shift, and all of a sudden the business started to kind of drop down the list, right? And that wasn't really fair to, myself, the business owner, or to the other people who were working there. And I think that was all a part of it as well, was this shift in priorities and knowing that my heart just wasn't really into that aspect anymore. And so that was all a part of it. So yeah, I get that, the priorities and being able to take care of oneself and entrepreneurship. We oftentimes, I think, so much sacrifice so much of our own personal health and well-being at the expense of the business. And it's going to be different for everybody, but to find that balance, I think, is so, so, so important.
Yeah,
They say you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And it's so true. You can't
it's
pour from an
so
empty cup.
true. It's so true. And that's why I am such a like s- um God, perimenopause is killing my brain, but a diehard supporter of small business. Like I was just my in-laws have a cottage. Basically they all grew up on this lake outside of Perth. And so we were there last weekend and I went into Perth. David's like, I know you want to go do a little like putter and shop, go. And so I went in and there's a Perth, it's called Perth General Store. It opened last year and I'm in love with it because my heaven is a little like curated food store. I love it. And so I got back to the cottage and David's like, what'd you get? And I was like, oh my God, they have these Atlantic lobster chips that come out around this time. I was like, I got a bag. And he's like, how many? I was like, okay, two. And he's like, jam? I was like, just one jar, raspberry. He's like, okay. He's like, what else? I was like, beef jerky. And he was like, how many bags? I was like, okay, two of one kind. And what, but, and so my father-in-law's laughing and David's like, keep going. What else is in that bag? And then my father-in-law's like, they love to see you coming. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gladly spend all of my grocery dollars at a, a small Perth General Store food shop because that is who's like I know how hard that person is working behind the scenes and that's where I want my money spent every time. And he was like, he worked in banking, but he worked with small business banking. And he was like, I get it. He was like, I there's no one I admire more than a small business owner because I know how flipping hard everyone is working behind the scenes. And I'm like, yeah, I don't understand how you can just hit buy online. Look, I've definitely ordered something from Amazon before, but like if you can go down the street and get it, like get in your car and go down the street and get it, like just
Yeah.
support these people
Yeah.
that are working so hard. And I also think people think small business owners are like making a lot of money. I mean, I've had so many conversations with people like, I wish they saw where I lived. I was like, bless. Yeah, like we're working so hard.
Yeah. So true.
Okay, I want to go back to
Yeah.
chiropractic school. I think I just called it chiropractic, by the way.
Chiropractic school. It sounds like an adjective. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, chiropractic school. Did you love it? Like, was it when you got there, were you like, aha, this is it?
Wow. Yeah. So very mixed feelings 'cause it's a very intense program.
Yeah,
They throw a ton of information at you, but yeah, it was really really interesting. Right. We studied so many incredible things. Anatomy was probably my favorite subject. And at the school in Toronto, there's a cadaver lab there, so we had the opportunity to do human dissection, which was unbelievable, unbelievable. Like what an incredible gift that people give for
yeah.
us to be able to learn. Like it is such an incredible opportunity. I wish, and I spent a lot of time in that anatomy lab. I wish I could go back now, knowing what I know now, so that I could
Right.
really get into, hindsight being 2020 and being able to do that. Um, yeah, so it was a very very intense program, but yeah, it was incredible. It was just an incredible program. Anatomy and physiology. We did technique classes and rehabilitation classes, and diagnosis, and it's an intensive program. And the fourth year is all spent in clinic. We have the clinics that are run at the school, and then through a couple of different community clinics at community health centers in downtown Toronto. And that was just an amazing experience as well. So I was in two community health centers. I did two 6-month rotations. I was fortunate enough to be off campus, and that was a very good learning experience. One was at the South Riverdale Clinic at Queen. No, where was that? Queen and Carlaw, or it was downtown Toronto in the West End, and the other one was at First Nations Health Center called Anishinaabe, which was at Queen and Sherbourne, which was just an unreal experience. But both of those were fantastic. So
Were you
yeah, incredible.
nervous? Like to start practicing?
Yes, like in that fourth year for sure, but you have a clinician who's watching over you, right? So you come out
Yeah.
of that room and you tell the clinician what's going on and what you found and what you think is happening and what you propose to do, and they listen to you and then they okay that, right? Or they start asking you a bunch of questions because they want you to go down a different route because they know you're not right.
Yeah.
And but it's so helpful to have that clinician there. It was much more nerve-wracking to see that first patient without having the clinician, where all of a
Oh,
sudden you do that intake and then you kind of realize, oh, I'm the
Yeah.
clinician. I'm the
You
one
go
who has to.
outside and you're like, there's someone to
There's
ask.
there's nobody to ask. It's me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely takes a little getting used to, but I think it's like that with any professional program, any time you're in that. So then you get used to it pretty quickly. I mean, think or swim, right? You've got to do it.
Yeah.
So
You got to do it. Do you have what's the community like? Is there like a hub of mentorship? Is it a village mentality, or is it more like hoarding information? What's it like in
yeah,
this industry?
yeah, that's a good question for chiropractic. I'm not too sure. I mean, there are a couple of chiropractic groups, like Ottawa chiropractic groups online, like on Facebook, and people will post some things up. And I think there's generally a good community, and you do tend to see people at various courses and things like that. And so you get to know some people. I don't know how much mentorship there is because of the techniques that I use. I don't really connect with people in Ottawa, they're chiropractors in Ottawa, just because I'm the only one who does PDTR in Ottawa. So I'll often connect with people online if I need to, which is amazing that we have these tools available to us that, if I've got questions, I can go put them out to this brain trust, and in an hour I can have like 10 different comments and different directions to go. And so that is just incredible that I could do that. And I've got a couple of teachers that I've had over the years that I could go back to and ask questions to specifically if I needed to. So
Have you
yeah,
ever
that's
had a patient that has totally stumped you, that you're like, you reach out to these people and like together even you're like, I can't figure this out?
totally. Yeah,
How
absolutely.
does
Yeah,
that drive
yeah,
you crazy? I mean, okay, first compassion for the person that is like looking for help and you can't. But on the side of you that loves to figure it out and just like research and figure, like see them and see them and see them and be like, I'm not making any inroads here. I'm not helping you. Like, how does that feel?
drives me nuts. Absolutely nuts. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so frustrating, and just like I just don't know what's going on, right? Usually people notice a difference pretty quickly, right? And if it doesn't
right.
happen, and just try all the things in my bag of tricks, and like none of it connects, and then it's just I don't know what's going on with this person. Don't
So
know.
what do you do?
So I'll often refer out. Like sometimes it's just not my thing. It's just not my techniques that are going to make the difference. And so I'll often refer them out to like an osteopath, right? I find the osteopaths to be really good at looking holistically and kind of looking at things a little bit more out of the box and just trying something different. And sometimes it is just a different type of technique, right? A different touch, a different exploration. I'll refer them to, potentially a different chiropractor or for massage or just make other suggestions, right? Yeah. And then I'll always keep in mind that person as well, right? So I'm always doing courses. I'm always interacting with people. And sometimes, you'll just hear something or you'll learn something and it'll totally be like, that's that person. And then I'll usually write them back and say, hey, I learned something and I just want to see if this makes a difference for you. And I'll have them come in and we'll just try it.
Right, because I'm guessing that these people are not easily forgotten. Like you're like,
Uh, nope. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Drives me
So
nuts, and
you're
I can't.
constantly doing courses, searching out new ways to help, it
Yeah,
sounds like.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
Are
and
you in
sometimes
one? Yeah,
I was gonna say sometimes they land and I use that in practice, and sometimes it's just well that was interesting, but it doesn't resonate with me, or I'm not going to incorporate that. But I love learning. I think it's so important to keep doing that, right? And even if
agree.
it's not something that you're going to use on Monday morning, still I think it's just good to come into contact with different people, different techniques, and different perspectives, right? And just see what other people are doing.
I also feel like people like having the conversation if they're familiar with another technique, like for coaching, I use the Enneagram, but some people have used other different like personality mapping systems and they want to ask me about it. And I'm like, that's not my expertise, but it is helpful to know because I can see them wanting to understand this in comparison in a way. So I'm sure it's the
Hmm.
same for you. People want to understand what you're doing and how it's having an effect.
Hmm.
Um, what are you most excited about when you look ahead? Like you're gonna step away from running this business. You're gonna, yeah, tell me. What is it?
Yeah, that's a big question. So yeah, that's a very, very big question. So I've back in February I did a course which is really beautiful. It's something called Zen Tai Shiatsu. and it was developed by this guy named Wynne Williams. He's in Australia, and what he did is he's combined Thai massage with shiatsu, osteopathic manipulations, and principles of traditional Chinese medicine. And it was an amazing course. It was so beautiful, and just to get back into some of that Thai massage, right? Like that's that type of movement. But everything that I do, right? You talk about you notice the wheels spinning in my head when I'm practicing. It's very, very cerebral, right? It's trying to figure something out, right? And a lot of logic and if then reasoning and all these sorts of things that are going on. And the Zen Tai was just so, it was so heart centered, right? It was very about so much about presence and connection and that relationship between the giver and the receiver. And it was just so nice to spend that time in that space. And so I've been working on that and trying to incorporate some of those movements or gestures in my practice now. But I would like to explore that more, right? And I'd like to kind of bring some of that connection into practice because I think it is just so. I think it's therapeutic, and I think it is just such a wonderful place to come from. So I would like to explore more of that type of treatment and movement. I I'd like to do, getting kind of into the energy stuff. There's some qigong training online that has to be done online and some in person, which I would like to do some more of. My plate's kind of full now. I started down that road, but I didn't get very far. I got 4 or 5 months in, and I realized this is something that's going to have to sit for a later time. But really to go deeper into energy work and to really kind of feel that and in a different way, right? And to be able to interact with that in a deeper, more confident way. So I foresee that as a different direction to go.
What do you
And
love
yeah,
about that? What pulls you into that? Because you just all of a sudden, wait, let me just tell you how it looks when you just start to talk about it. It's like your whole body is like relaxes into it. You're just like, it just feels like right or something. Like it feels like
yeah.
you've landed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels to me. So I don't know what this all looks like for the future and whether I'll be incorporating this into my PDTR chiropractic practice or whether it'll be more of a standalone or whether there'll be kind of more of a melding of these things together. I really don't know how this looks in the future, but that's how it feels to me is that this is the direction that I'd like to go in as far as practice is concerned.
And it'll reveal itself, right? Like you're
Yeah,
making steps to go towards where you will end up and where you really want to go. It's like your soul is like being like pulled there.
yeah.
What is it about it that makes you just be like, oh, this?
It's that yeah, it's that connection, that presence, that there's something, I try to bring that to my practice, right? Like try to be present for people and try to connect with people as well. But it's in a different way, right? And it is very kind of mind centered, kind of up in the head. And to kind of drop down into that heart center and really connect with somebody on that deeper level, on that felt level, I think is really beautiful. And there's something that happens, this beautiful flow of movement, this beautiful connection that happens. It's almost like a dance. And yeah, so that's what draws me into that. I think that there's something that's almost transcendental in a way, right? You kind of drop into this other headspace, this energetic space that I think is just so beautiful that I think that many people could want to connect with, and I think could do very well to connect with as well. I think that's something that a lot of us don't connect with a lot in our society, right? We are very head centered and we work hard and we're in the grind and we're trying to do these things and maybe not taking as much time to stop and smell the roses and to enjoy those things like art and nature that I think that taps into all of that as well. So if I can somehow go in that direction and be able to allow people to connect with that in some way and to bring that into their lives in some way, I think it's really beautiful.
It is so beautiful. You're such a gift. So, where can we find you moving forward, like after everything is sold?
Yeah, so I'll still be at Restore Health and Wellness. You can find me
Okay.
there, Bayswater in Somerset, in Hintonburg. Yeah, we're easily findable online. And in person. We're right on the corner there, that one-story red brick building. So you can find me there. I'm not going anywhere for the foreseeable future.
Gosh. Okay, what are you looking forward to the most this summer? Beyond the sale. You're like, I just talked to you about that for an hour.
Um, there's a little holiday time that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to spending some time with my kids,
Mm,
and my family, my wife. But there's some time where my kids are actually going to be at overnight camp together, so I'm looking forward to a little time without the kids and just my
yeah.
wife, and just have some time to ourselves. Yeah, that's the big stuff I'm looking forward to this summer. Yeah.
Which kind of really does align with the fact of like just kind of slow down and be present. It's not this big thing that you're looking forward to.
Oh my gosh.
It's like the simple, the ordinary, the things that we can take for granted, which is just like time with the people that we like hold the closest and love the most. And gosh, that's so
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm so glad I found you.
Oh,
You
thank
like
you. I'm
made
glad
my world
too.
better. Oh,
Yeah, you too, Nadine. I gotta say, like, you are an exceptional person, and I always have mixed feelings when I see you pop up on the schedule. I'm happy to see you, but I know you're there for a reason, so I'm not happy about that.
you're like, oh, poor thing. But yes, what trauma is coming through her body in what way now? No, I'm always like, oh, this hurts, but I'm like, oh, I can just go see Jared. Yeah, thanks for doing what you do and helping me live a way better life. And I've said so many people your way, and I don't know how you want me to
Oh,
explain it, but generally I literally say, you just got to go. He's a chiropractor. And I don't mean to say but, because it's like I don't want to do any disservice to chiropractic, like the industry, like the service, the care. But I'm like, but he's a magician. I don't know what. I mean, I know you've told me what it's called. I forgot. I'll forget a million times again. I'll go re-listen to this to remember. But it doesn't matter because I just know that whatever you do, you're so good at it. So I tend to just call you a magician.
oh, thank you so much.
Can you put that in brackets? Dr. Jared Gerston, magician.
Yeah, sure. After
Saying,
the DC, yeah, I like it.
yeah. But anyway, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge, your brain, your like big, generous, kind heart and compassion. I just think yeah, you're in service to humanity. It comes right across. And I'm gonna make you come back actually, because I want to hear more about the training you're gonna do when you finish it, but also about your time spent in Asia and how that shaped you. Because you know what? Okay, let me go on a tangent for a hot second. My nephew is graduating from high school next week. And so my family were going out meeting in Calgary for his graduation. And I just recorded a podcast with my mom and sister because I do one a month with them. And the topic I wanted to talk about was, what would you say to somebody graduating from high school? Like, what would we say to Connor, my nephew? But like all the graduating class. Anyway, so we had this really sweet talk. And one of the things that we all said is, you don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to graduate from
Mm,
high school and go the same path as your peers. And like someone might be ahead of you in university because maybe you want to take some time off, or maybe you're in a college, they're in this university, or maybe you're in the trades, or. But like just start somewhere, and maybe that's a gap year that is going to turn into a 9-year journey. But like trust that school is always going to be there. And I think
mm.
probably parents are like, don't say that. But you're such a great example of that. And me, like I quit university in second year. I went back pretty quickly. Like it took me like 5 months to be like, I've made a mistake. But like, I just think we're afraid to not follow this quick route. It's like, what's the quickest way to adulthood or success or whatever? But there's so much that will be shaped by that's not within the walls of a school. And I love learning. I think university or college is incredible, or the trades, like learn something, dig deeper. There's so much to learn, but also there's so much to learn outside of like the traditional idea of school, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah,
so I want to
totally.
dig into that 9 years you spent in Asia. Wow, that's cool. I did not know that about you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much. It's inappropriate because you're my chiropractor, but I just love you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is great.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Nadine. You too.
Bye.